Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. And it is so good to be back in with you, fixing my cables around my neck. It is a beautiful Friday. And I missed you yesterday. Thanks for giving me the day off. I had an amazing event down in Scottsdale, Arizona. And so we drove down on Wednesday, had a full day of the event yesterday, and then made our way back up this morning. And so now we are here, and it is great to be with you. We've got a bunch of updates and legal business to attend to. I missed you too. I did. I missed you. I hate missing the show. It's great to be back. Let me give you a preview on what we're talking about, and then we'll get into business. We've got updates on the AIDS doctors coming up. We've been covering this case, and the Judge Amir Ali from Ontario, who of course said that he had to pay the Trump administration, meaning we the people, $2 billion. We saw a lot of kerfuffle about that. Went up to the Supreme Court. Judge Roberts put a stay on it. Then they essentially reversed that. They sent this back down to Amir Ali and they said, Trump still needs to pay, but you got to give him some specificity. You got to clarify what he needs to pay here. And so we've got some updates on that. We got some back and forth, some filings here, because now the AIDS doctors, as we call them here, are saying this is how much we need. So we'll read through their updates and we'll see if we have any latest from the judge himself before we hear from the president. So we'll check in on this one, see what's going on with the AIDS doctors coming up. Then we're going to turn our attention over to DC because we had this battle going on at the Department of Treasury. And this was a big win for Trump today. And we'll go through it. You can see the case was the Alliance for Retired Americans. And we covered a bunch of them back in 2020, a bunch of the AARP, I think it was. Yeah, no, something like that. American Alliance for Retired Americans or something like there was a bunch of these organizations that were the retired American organizations. You remember this from 2020, and they were suing for the COVID changes back during the election, right? So there are these other groups that, in my opinion, are just stand-up organizations that are just exploited by Democrat lawyers like Mark Elias and Norm Eisen. And so this entity was back. They were suing the Treasury Department, and the basis of this suit was to preclude the Treasury Department from giving or accessing their private information. And so they lost today. So we'll come back. We'll get an update on that. We got to talk about Hampton Dellinger. You saw him in the thumbnail. He was the fired special counsel who is or was back. Now he is no longer back. So he also lost, and there's some very sneaky business going on with this dude right now because he just got a bad order from the Court of Appeals, and what he doesn't want is a bad memo to follow that up. He doesn't want them to explain anymore why he has been fired because he doesn't want bad precedent. And so what he's done is basically cut and run. He's had his attorneys say, okay, we're done. We're not going to pursue our battle to get back into the executive branch. We're just going to, tuck tail and run, which is pathetic because he was the guy saying Trump was, a dictator and kicking him out unlawfully and violating the congressional statutes and so on. So now he's cutting and running, but he's doing it to avoid a bad decision. And so we got some good news today, right? We got some nice wins coming up. And then ActBlue, you probably saw this article, but we'll go into some further detail and I have some further reading on it over from Raw Story. But the idea here is that ActBlue is in trouble. They're on the ropes. They've got people who are abandoning ship, fleeing, jumping overboard to get out of the wreckage that is going to be coming their way because, as we've long suspected, there was fraud happening here, okay, called smurfing. The idea being that certain entities will just pay Republicans and Democrats, by the way. The Republicans were in on this grift too, doing the same thing over with WinRed. But what they would do is get like a bunch of donuts, like $7, $8, $5, $4, $12, $13, and just kind of going with a large amount of small donations. And then those small donations wouldn't trigger the $100 reporting requirement with the FEC or whatever it is. And then they could just do that to the tune of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions all across this country. And it was a scam. And people like Data Republican and others have been backtracing the tubes and cross-indexing where all this stuff is coming from and to where it is going. And so now ActBlue is in trouble. They're running away. It's hilarious. We got some clips from Trump. He had an Oval Office appearance today. And we got to watch, if you haven't seen it yet, the Choose Your Fighter video. My gosh. We got to watch it. We have to. All right, it's Friday. We're going to do it. So we got a bunch of great stuff to get to today. And once again, my friends, happy Friday. And I know the tubes were warming up, but I said I had a great event yesterday. Was it a weekend? No, yesterday was a one-day event. Went down to Scottsdale, Arizona, hung out with Do Wealth. They had a great mastermind, great organization there. And I got to meet two awesome YouTubers, by the way. There were two amazing YouTubers there. And so I'll share more about that with you, but they were awesome dudes. And so it was a ton of fun, and I'm glad to be back, but I definitely missed you. I hope your week was outstanding. I hope yesterday you missed me too, because we're back. All right, so we're going to get into it. And Renee said you were gone so long, I almost ran out of briskets. Don't want to run out of briskets there, Renee. Don't, because you have to smoke your briskets and smoke them well. All right, so let's get into it, my friends. We got some good stuff now. This is the USAID case. The battle for that USAID money continues. We know that the Supreme Court, in their 5-4 decision, sent this case back down to Judge Amir Ali. We covered it previously. We were unhappy with Judge Amy Coney Barrett, who, if you saw it, gave Trump that old stink eye over at the congressional address. Gave him the stink eye. He was walking by. And we also were unhappy with the Chief Justice, John Roberts, because John Roberts seemingly forgot that he just issued a stay to Judge Amir Ali and then reversed himself and said, oh, okay, I guess Trump could pay that money out. Now, there were some complexities in that decision, right? It wasn't a total loss. The media was saying that Trump had to go out and pay $2 billion to everybody, but that wasn't the truth, because the Supreme Court required the judge to get more specific, give us some concrete details about what needs to be paid, to whom, by when, in what amounts. And our thesis was, when we were reading this, is, okay, here's what's going to happen. The Supreme Court will then take a look at what this new order is. So this judge will review this order, write this order, whatever it is. We're going to go through and see what they're asking for. But the order, if it's overbroad by a stinking hair, then Trump will appeal that, and it probably will be. So that will go back up to the Supreme Court in some way, shape, or form. And the idea is that you want this judge to put what he's doing in writing. Okay, he's been hiding in the gray areas, like pay him everything, make all your payments, issue credit, and so on, and do it quickly so that he could hide and not be found out that what he was actually doing was usurping Article 2 power from the executive branch. If it was kind of vague, nobody could see exactly what he was doing, but the Supreme Court just said, you can't be vague. Tell us what you're doing. When he's clear about what he's doing, we'll say, oh, there it is. See, we knew you were violating Article 2, and now we're going to appeal that and take it up. So I think that's kind of where we're at right now. And the Supreme Court is still identifying all of these cases that are floating out. There's hundreds now, I think, of cases. I don't know what the official number is. I think it's well over 100 at this point that have been filed. And so they're waiting for, one or two cases out of the whole batch that are going to be justifiable to accept, issue a blanket rule, and knock this stuff out. But today, this case got sent back down from the Supreme Court. They had a hearing, and this is what NBC News reports from inside the hearing. I also have some filings, but this was during court today. So this is what happened orally in session. It says a federal judge during the proceeding in the aftermath ordered Trump to pay, okay, this is different, several non-profit groups and aid organizations that were affected by the order, the freeze order that came down from Trump that they're suing over. So it's not all the $2 billion. Remember, there were just a handful of agencies saying, you owe me money. The judge came back down and said, you owe everybody money. And Trump said, what? They're not even suing. It's like a handful of people in this lawsuit. We have to pay other people who aren't even a party to any of this? Judge said, yeah. They said, you're crazy. So the judge is now tightening it, right? Our battle has always been with these two concepts, whether something is overbroad so that it is forcing Trump to violate the judge's order, which will then create an impeachment trap that they will try to bring against Trump, claiming he's usurping the judiciary and so on. But a federal judge said, all right, listen, narrowing this up as we thought, you must pay several nonprofit groups. In a ruling on Thursday, U.S. District Judge Amir Ali formalized a plan to ensure the federal government releases funds to at least 9 groups. Okay, not everybody, just 9. The groups are Global Health Council, Chemonics International, AIDS Vaccine Advocacy Coalition. And of course, NBC is the worst website ever because if you try to highlight anything, it shoots you to the top, and I always forget that. But in addition, to that being annoying, we also have this judge. Now, Ali on Thursday did not order the administration to pay the full $2 billion by the deadline, which is going to be 6 p.m. on Monday. Perfect, right around showtime. But instead ordered the payment of a yet to be determined smaller amount to aid the organizations named in the suit, right? So the judge was way overbroad, tried to get Trump to violate so he could impeach. And now the judge just got backhanded by the Supreme Court. And then they narrow the order. Okay, no, sorry about that $2 billion. How much do we owe, actually? How much? Okay, so we'll go through their filings and see what they're requesting. He requested more information from the plaintiffs in the case by noon Friday, that's the day, which will determine, and we'll read those, the payment amount and the specific recipients. And so keep that big fat number in your mind, right? $2 billion. Let's see what we can whittle this down to. Now, it's unclear whether the payments will be delivered by Monday. As the Justice Department told the judge in court, it anticipates it will be able to pay the plaintiffs not more than 10 working days. And this is kind of the drag your feet. Yeah, no, well, you know what? Forgot to sign the check. Ugh. We sent it. USAID, they're like running to the mailbox. It's here. We're going to get paid. AIDS doctors. They open the check. It's not signed. Ugh. Darn it. And that was the last check. So then when they request a new one, got to reorder it. Got to reorder some new checks. Oh, man, don't you hate that? That was my last one, too. So there are a number of logistical problems that need to be solved, says the Justice Department. Rob, don't highlight anything. As you can see, they're going to have to figure out how to pay all this because it's going to take some serious time. Now, the White House did not have an immediate reply to a request for comment. And an attorney representing the AIDS group says, Your Honor, we got to get paid by March 14th. So that we can keep the lights on. Yeah, now USAID provides billions of dollars worth of humanitarian aid overseas from funding that represents, again, this is their COPE phrase, less than 1% of the federal budget. So why are you so upset about it? Why are you so mad? It's because they were grifting off of that. And you know what 1% of the budget is? It's a lot of money. In fiscal year 2023, it was allotted more than $40 billion. There you go. And provided assistance to 130 countries. Now, those countries that received the most U.S. aid were, there it is, Ukraine. You're kidding. Ethiopia, Jordan, Congo. All key strategic resources for the United States, Ethiopia and the Congo. Trump signed an executive order on January 20th, freezing assistance. Then they sued. They said, hey, we're civil servants and we're serving you, America, and you better pay us our money or we're going to serve you so hard, we're going to serve you with a lawsuit in court. How do you like that? The Trump administration has moved to slash spending, announcing plans last month. 90% of contracts are gone, 60 billion gone. The cuts, if they're allowed to go into effect, would leave few surviving projects. That's right. The Justice Department referred to the cuts in a court filing, arguing that many of the contracts had been reviewed, either retained or terminated. So remember, this also backfired on them because the judge is like, you have to unpause everything. Unpause it so everything can continue. They said, well, okay, well, we're just going to cancel it then. So it's terminated. So when the judge came back and said, it's time to unpause, they said, no, we already canceled it. And in your TRO, you said we could rely on other statutes, regulations, and authorities that gave us the power to do that. So we did that. Thanks. The Justice Department referred to the cuts, saying that they will make determinations and that they will make all legitimate payments. And so let's see what these numbers are looking like from the filings today. So this came out from the Public Citizen Litigation Group. And you can see the person writing this one is Lauren Bateman. So she's representing the plaintiffs, the people who are bringing the lawsuits, which are in this case, the AIDS doctors. And I say the AIDS doctors because I don't actually believe they're AIDS doctors at all. They're AIDS vaccine advocates. Pretty sure there's not an AIDS vaccine. So they're out talking about why we need one. Great. We already know that. So we went through their website, didn't see much there of any actual utility or impact. I'm sure the people who work there would disagree, but the burden's on them to justify the use of the funds. Okay. The presumption is with us of doubt about their legitimacy. Until they can prove it with transparency, what they're actually doing, we're going to mock them into oblivion. So response, they say here, Your Honor, at the hearing on March 6th, the court requested that plaintiffs in Global Health Counsel, so at the hearing that we talked about, judge said, can you guys give us certain information about your outstanding invoices? Okay, so exactly what we want. That's exactly what the State Department wanted too. Why don't you bring, and by the way, they never even brought their contracts in and filed them. This is what we're owed. Because if they would have done that in the contracts, They could have seen that it would have been canceled, is my speculation, that the State Department could cancel it at will, whenever they want, however they want, for whatever they want, by whomever they want. So they didn't really want to be too communicative about any of this. How can they not even, in their claim, explain how much money collectively the plaintiffs were owed, and the judge narrowly order the actual money to them? They didn't. They just wanted all of it, right? They gobbled it all up. Now here the judge asked for information. They're providing it. To the extent that it is useful to the court, plaintiffs in the AIDS case, the AIDS doctors, provide the following information. They say that the AIDS Vaccine Advocacy Coalition is owed, look at this, $397,000. From $2 billion to $397,000, okay, is just one entity right here. And 2 pending drawdowns on letters of credit for work already performed. On 2 pending drawdowns. So 400 grand, right? And they were talking about 2 billion, by the way. So JDN previously submitted to USAID, and so that's some other plaintiff, right? They gobbled them up into basically 2, one's like the Global Health Council and the others. So JDN also invoiced the State Department totaling 1.7 million. Still a far cry from 2 billion. Those invoices, however, included requests for advances. Wait, what? So these people, Lauren Bateman, who represents these plaintiffs, they wanted to get paid for work not done. Oh, so they sent invoices for work they hadn't performed, and this entire time they've been whining, we already did this work. And that's a useful talking point, right? Rob, shouldn't they get paid for what they've done? If they did it, they didn't want anybody to check it. They didn't want it to be itemized like this because it's ridiculous. They wanted $2 billion to go out like floodgates were being opened. And they were, we already did this. We already built houses. You're asking for advances here. The amount due for work already performed is therefore less than 1.7 million. You're kidding. Shocking. So how much less? They can't tell us. JDN is working diligently to determine the precise amount due for work already performed, and currently estimates that the amount is approximately 1.25 million. So they wanted about 450, 500K in advances. But JDN has encountered logistical hurdles in ascertaining the precise amount. They can't really give you clarity on this because some staff at the sub-grantee organizations who would normally manage the invoices, they've already been fired as a result of the freeze in foreign assistance funding. Okay, come on. Come on. You can't go into the QuickBooks and see what the invoices are. The work is done, you said. Tell us what was done. This is the problem, right? This is exactly why actually making the judge get clarity on what he's ordering and what is happening on the back end is important so that we can see what these people are. Actually, we have logistical hurdles. And remember, they were so mad at the State Department for not giving them their money. 1-800's My Money Now, says the US AIDS doctors. They want it constantly. They want it immediately. The State Department said, we have to process it. We have to make sure you did the things, like you're going to send us an invoice. We're going to check it. We might want to see what'd you do and take a look at it. The judge said, no, pay it all. So in this one document, okay, it's less than $2 million of work, less than 2 million. And these plaintiffs were going to get 2 billion unloaded. And the judge was complicit in that. Didn't even ask these questions. And calls himself a federal judge who's above the partisan bickering and he's doing the interest of justice. It was a scam and it was an attempted fraud, in my opinion. And I hope there's more investigation that happens here. But here was another filing. So this came over from Trump. And remember that these cases were consolidated. So we had these 2 cases together. We just read the filing from the AIDS vaccine doctors, right, who were trying to fight to unfreeze 2 billion, and the Global Health Council. Now, this is Trump's response, and they're giving them actually some alternative authority. So this is in the same case. And we've had a couple of good wins. We're not going to read this case today, but This was a win, and they're notifying the Judge Amir Ali from the DC District Court, who was born in Ontario, says that Trump respectfully requests that you, Judge, are made aware of this other case. It's called the Personal Services Contractor Association versus Trump. They sued Trump. Now, in that case, a bunch of personal services contractors, okay, with the USAID, they raised claims and they challenged the government's actions. They came and they said, hey, we're personal servants, civil servants for America, whether you like it or not. You can't fire us. So this court issued an oral ruling denying the court, not this court with Judge Amir, but the other court, issued a oral ruling, denying a motion for a TRO. Okay, you lose. You're suing to get all reinstalled and you lose. The court found that the plaintiff had not established irreparable harm. And this sounds, Judge, like your plaintiffs. Sounds like these AIDS doctors. These personal service contractors are no different than the AIDS doctors. And that judge found that they lose, also from the District of Columbia. So right next door, go talk to them. The court also found that the contractors was not likely to succeed on the merits of the claim because their contractors' claims would need to be channeled through an alternative forum. You remember we talked about this a lot here. Through the Court of Federal Claims, Congress created a separate entity with exclusive jurisdiction to handle these claims, whether you're an AIDS doctor, whether you're a global health council member, whatever the hell that is, whether you're somebody who works as a personal services contractor. What does that mean, by the way? Just registered. Personnel, it's not personnel, it's personal. Personal services. Oh, gosh. Are these for those trans dance parties in the sub-Sahara? Oh, great. So they lose, and now they're filing this from the DOJ saying, yeah, guess what, Judge? They're saying right next door, okay, a smart judge, much smarter than you, has decided that they should bring their claims in another venue. You didn't even think about that. And by the way, the Supreme Court also said you didn't even think about that. And so now you should, because the rest of the DC circuit and the district is getting in line with this decision. Now, we also saw this filing from Trump, and that's the one I just read. So this is, do I have the same document open 3 times, or am I just being dumb? I think I'm being dumb. Now, this is Trump. For the first time, he says, this change, by the way, right, is about helping America. And the president was in the Oval Office today saying that, yeah, we're losing some foreign aid, but we're not hiring foreign workers anymore, right? This is a focus on domestic policy. Stop sending that money overseas, send it back home, help the people who live here. You combine what's happening with the foreign aid deployment and the State Department policy with what's happening at the border, which means people are not coming in, and what's happening with the deportations, we're seeing a shift in now who is being hired, native-born workers versus foreign-born workers. The president discussed that today.
Big gains for native-born Americans for the first time in 15 months. The job gains for native-born Americans, for American people born in America, exceeded job gains for migrant and foreign-born workers. This is the first time that's happened in more than 15 months. Employment for native-born workers went up by 284,000, while foreign-born workers went down by 87,000. Now, you've heard the same stat where foreign workers were taking up all the jobs or almost all the jobs. In some cases, literally all of the jobs. And now it's 284,000 native-born jobs here, people born in our country, 284,000, while foreign-born workers went down by 87,000.
Nice.
First time that's happened in a long time. So these are incredible numbers, and they're very early. I mean, we're here for 5 weeks, but we have been talking about it since the big win in November 5th. So a lot of these people, they listen to us speak and they say, well, I'm going to gear up, and they're gearing up. And so they've been gearing up. They've had a little time. It's not just 5 weeks. It's 5 weeks plus a few months.
Yeah, and you may have seen those graphs floating around out there, and you can validate the data for yourselves. But you've seen, after COVID, there was this one graph I saw that had employment go down, right? Everybody got fired, everybody got laid off, so on. It's down and to the right. Then what happens is we have this recovery. But when you look at the recovery analysis and you see the chart come back up and to the right, and you bifurcate that line, say, what is this recovery? What's inside of that line? You separate it, and you can see within it, there are two lines that you want to really keep your eye on: foreign-born jobs and domestic jobs. And what you see is foreign-born jobs is dramatically higher than domestic jobs. So it's almost like there was a firing that happened during COVID to replace people with other people. And so that trend and that pattern is looking like it's being reversed. And we appreciate President Trump for thinking about Americans in America using our American resources. So good updates there. Now, let's turn our attention to what's happening at the Treasury Department. Big win in the Treasury Department. You remember this Alliance for Retired Americans. They were suing Scott Bessent, the Secretary of the Treasury. They were very upset that the Treasury Department was going to look into their personnel files to identify things about them, who they are, what they're doing at this agency, so that Trump can validate the efficacy of the workers there. They said, how dare you allow DOGE or anybody to go look into any records, any systems, any software within the Treasury Department, saying stop Scott Bessent and DOGE from accessing it. Well, they lost today. This decision came down in a 44-pager. We'll hit the highlights of it, but a big victory for the president. In fact, you can see what the order says here. For the reasons stated in the memo that we're about to read, in this case brought by Alliance for Retired Americans, it is hereby ordered that the motion for a preliminary injunction, which would have permanently, well, not permanently, but preliminarily stopped Trump from doing what the administration needs to do, is denied. It is ordered that the interim order is also dissolved. So this one came out from Colleen Coulter Cotelli, U.S. District Court Judge in the District of Columbia. Here is the memo that she wrote. And this stuff is important because, as we saw in the prior segment, we're starting to see dominoes fall. Okay, we just saw the personal services contractors, whatever that entity was doing, they're not able to sue. They should take their claims to the Court of Federal Claims and sue in the appropriate venue. Same thing or a similar thing is happening here. We're starting to stack up the wins in the District of Columbia. So that means the free-for-all from the horrible judges like Judge Amir Ali need to be corrected, and it puts pressure on him to do so. So here was what the memo said coming out from the District of Columbia. This judge wrote, for a time, part of Silicon Valley, parts of them, embraced an unofficial credo of disruption. They used to say this a lot. Move fast and break things. That's from a book. Now, plaintiffs in this case, three large membership organizations, the Alliance for Retired Americans, we saw a ton of these filings from this same group back in 2020 when they were suing to change the election rules back around COVID. Oh, grandma's going to die unless we give everybody the right to vote by mail without even a vote on that. We just have courts do it. Changing all of the legislated rules. Yeah, remember that? Specifically, they say they argue that officials in the Department of Treasury are moving so fast that they need an injunction to save their members. They say if they don't, the Treasury Department is going to break two laws. One, the Privacy Act, one, the Internal Revenue Code, by disclosing their members' personal and financial information to individuals who lack the authority to access it, right? DOGE is coming in. All these useless Treasury employees are members of this useless organization. And these organizations get, in my understanding is they get paid from the membership, right? So if you're getting retirement, they're probably taking a portion of your retirement. You got to pay monetarily back into them. So they're funded by these people being in the government or government adjacent. So they say that their concerns are understandable, right? Oh yeah, it's widely shared. Yeah, a lot of people are upset that they're coming in and cleaning house. However, on the record, the Retired Alliance American Association, whatever it's called, they have not cleared the high standard of showing a likelihood of irreparable injury beyond remediation. And so therefore, this court will deny the plaintiff's motion for a preliminary injunction. And this group was very adjacent to Mark Elias in 2020. Don't know if he's still connected to it at this moment, but remember that, right? These are organizations that, in my opinion, are stood up to file lawsuits for Democrats. And then they claim that they're doing things for retired Americans. And we love our retired Americans here. But not this lawsuit. And I don't have strong beliefs that they're doing much for retired Americans other than suing for liberal retired Americans, which we like less, which is a prerequisite to the issuance of a preliminary injunction saying you can't meet the standard. Therefore, upon consideration of the parties' submissions, the arguments that have been brought forth are denied. They say, here's the thing. They say that they're going to violate the Privacy Act. They say, well, let's talk about it. The Privacy Act was enacted in 1974, talked about FOIA. Agencies must ensure their records are accurate. Now, the act doesn't provide a remedy for violations of its prohibited disclosures. And a lot of this is the rules. Okay, they're going to give us the rules so we can fast forward through the rules. Let's see how he applies it, the case to the rules, or she rather, saying the Bureau of Fiscal Service is part of the Treasury. Now, it's successor to two former agencies within the Treasury. And they've got a bunch of systems, right? They've got this secure payment system, this PAM, Payment Automation Manager, and it's complicated. Now, DOGE came in. On January 20th, DOGE came in the House. The executive order named DOGE, a USDS administrator, and others would be put into these agencies. The executive order from Trump further directed the heads of each agency to establish within their agencies a DOGE team. Remember, 4 employees with the DOGE team and more. In the early days, 2 people received assignments to work in the Treasury. The first person was Marco Alez, a special advisor. Alez was appointed as a temporary transitional Schedule C employee, which means he's got temporary appointments during the 1-year period following a change in presidential administration. So they codified this guy as a temporary transition type of an employee. In this role, he was responsible for conducting special and confidential studies into various strategies related to Treasury's technology. Then would make recommendations to strengthen Treasury's hardware and software. Now, because he was not a designated special government employee, he was bound by the same ethics rules as most federal employees. So then he resigned on February 6th. After he resigned, they revoked everything. There's no indication that he retains any access to anything. So you don't need to worry about that guy. They're like, stop DOGE. Okay, well, that guy came in, resigned. I don't know if that was Mr. Big Balls or not, but resigned. He doesn't have any access. So the judge is saying there's no indication on any record and any evidence that he has anything. Okay, so that's done. So what is your irreparable harm? That guy's gone. He's off the list. The second person that went over to Treasury in connection with DOGE is Thomas Krause. He's a senior advisor. Now, when Krause signed his Treasury appointment paperwork and took the oath of office, he was onboarded as a consultant under 5 U.S. Code 3109. But the appointing official at Treasury did not execute his appointment paperwork until the 3rd. Now, when executed, this paperwork identified his start date as February 9, more than 2 weeks after he began working. Then they said, oh, that's not happened. We actually accidentally executed a revised appointment documentation and we backdated his appointment. Okay, so they're like, got the paperwork wrong. Wait, when are you starting? Oh, you already started? Rewrite it. But they're saying, well, then he wasn't official, right? Until it was executed via the paperwork. So on February 5th, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent delegated the duties of fiscal assistant to Krause. But because Krause had been appointed to Treasury as a consultant, he was not authorized to perform managerial or supervisory work under the law, except as a team leader or director for a specific purpose. So Krause therefore did not assume the duties until February 13th. He was sworn in. Now, at all times, unlike Alez, Krause has been designated a special government employee, which means he's exempt from certain ethics rules that apply to most employees. He also serves as the CEO of Cloud Software Group, a private company in the enterprise industry. He has kept his role in both, but he's not taking pay at Treasury. The judge writes, now, Treasury officials initially authorized Krause to have over-the-shoulder access to view systems that was being accessed by other employees. However, according to statements, he has never had direct or personal access to any systems and has been in compliance with the TRO that was issued. And he no longer has over-the-shoulder access either. Judge writes, now, since this case began, the Treasury has made plans to onboard 3 more people. One person's called Ryan Wonderly, going to replace Big Balls. Like Alez, Wonderly will be appointed through another number, so identifying the other people who are involved. So then, on January 26th, Trump is in the White House. BFS initiated a payment process engagement plan with the DOGE team. This plan provided that BFS would support the Treasury DOGE team for 4 to 6 weeks. The objective of this engagement is to gain full insight. How does this stuff work? One of the early goals was to make sure that the systems are tagged with symbols and codes, identifying the type of payment and the account of receiving the payment, right? So we can identify how the government is spending its money. The DOGE team agreed to help with the process of adding these symbols and codes in support of identifying inefficiencies. And Elon has talked a lot about this, right? He's like, I think on the Joe Rogan show, he said that there's not even anything being put in the memo line, right? You write a check memo to AIDS doctors in the Sub-Sahara for their trans festivals. Not even in there. They didn't want to write it. Because you can imagine if you had to write that, somebody would go, what? How much? Because understanding the full end-to-end payment process is important, and so we're trying to learn. So BFS officials recognize that the access they were providing to DOGE is broader in scope. They say, well, we've given extensive read-only access to auditors, but now this is sensitive data, and we don't know what to do. So the officials also recognize that allowing broad access could present risks. Now, to mitigate these risks, they took several measures to control the DOGE team access. For example, BFS chose just one person, Alez, to be the technical team member. Then others could have over-the-shoulder access, so there's only one cook in the kitchen messing around with the tubes. BFS officials also planned to provide read-only access to other things. He couldn't modify anything. However, operating on a compressed timeline, they failed to implement some of these protective measures. On February 5th, the BFS employee mistakenly granted Alez read-write protections, but corrected it the same day or the next day. And he resigned the same day, right? So that dude resigned immediately. Now, despite the mistake, BFS officials believe that Alez never exercised any write permissions, right? They went into his user. Did he make any changes? No. An initial forensic investigation also confirmed that Alez interacted with the system only during a supervised walkthrough session. No unauthorized action had taken place. And none of his activities had been completed. So these are mistakes. These are going to happen, right? Doesn't mean you get rid of the entire DOGE team or Elon. Elon should go to prison for life now because somebody made a mistake on a drop-down setting. What is this user? Read, write, read only, write only. There's a bunch of them. So they fixed it immediately. The dude resigned. Now, is that irreparable harm? Is somebody going to die? Are all these people suing from their retired alliance? Are they going to suffer imminent harm? So on January 26, Treasury leaders approved a process intended to assist agencies. The executive order from Trump also paused foreign development assistance payments immediately, but said the Secretary of State may issue waivers. Treasury leadership also developed another process to identify all USAID payment files within the system. Later, they were directed to identify payment files with a specific code. Now, we don't know who gave this direction to complete this, but they also shared relevant payment files with Alez. Alez also was doing a manual review of some of these things. He was going through the PAM, the payment system. Now, the record indicates that only one payment was halted as a result of this new process. They identified a payment request from a Department of the Interior on behalf of the Millennium Challenge Corporation. Later, an official requested that BFS not process that. They're like, what? Millennium Challenge? What the hell is that? BFS also identified 4 other payment files and said, no, you can't process those. So a lot of this, right? In some, the present record shows here, right? Judge gave us a lot of that history, a lot of the inner workings. So for all the hysterics in the media on MSNBC and CNN and elsewhere, what are they doing in there? It's like a circus. The judge wrote it, okay? It's like nothing happened. This is what happens at big businesses all the time. Somebody sends an email, I shouldn't have sent that, undo that. All sorts of stuff. They fixed it immediately, everything. The judge even writes, in some, the present record shows that the defendants, acting in haste, made multiple mistakes in onboarding the team. Okay, but there is no indication in the present record that these mistakes have resulted in disclosures outside the federal government, but neither is there any indication that they've yet completed an independent forensic review either to determine what may have been shared, right? So the judge is kind of hedging on that. Now it says, the people suing are the AFL-CIO, thousands of people who get money from the government. Many of them are concerned about DOGE violating their privacy. So they sued. There were, immediately after the suit, they file a complaint. And they moved for a TRO. During the preliminary hearing, they made representations to the court and more. Now, during the preliminary hearing, the judge says, And after it concluded, they agreed on a consent order. Okay, so they said, here's what we're going to do. We're just going to preserve the status quo. We didn't have a ruling. They just agreed, only these people are going to access read only, and here's what's going to happen. So then everybody responded. The court held a hearing. After the hearing, the judge wanted more filings. There are a bunch of related proceedings. Judge Vargas, for example, is doing the same thing. We have this one from Judge Rossi Alston and others. Deborah Boardman is also considering similar claims. Now, here's the analysis. They say, first of all, I can hear this claim. It says Trump raises two challenges to this about subject matter jurisdiction, saying these people should file in a different court. First, they say that they've not established standing here. And they also contend that we have sovereign immunity, Trump says. If they think we're violating any of these other laws, there are other courts where they can sue. They present these arguments saying you should deny their injunction. And the judge says, well, I do have jurisdiction. The court says I do. I can hear this case. Says why? Article 3 of the Constitution confines federal judicial power to cases and controversies. Organizations can have standing, associational standing when members are harmed. And although they bear the burden of establishing this, the court notes and assumes that they'll win. So having expounded on all of this, man, very verbose opinion, saying in any event, Trump's publicity argument is fundamentally inopposite. And here they have satisfied their burden of showing that their harm is a close relationship to a common law tort of intrusion upon, oh my gosh, what? Intrusion upon seclusion gives them standing, all right, at common law. So their injury is the disclosure of private information, which at the common law was intrusion upon seclusion. Like you have a right to be private. People are intruding on that. It's kind of like a privacy right violation. So they have enough harm to establish standing. Here, the intrusion has already happened, potentially an illustration of the common law restatement. Man, this is a lot. We'll fast forward through that. At the hearing on the motion, Trump argued that their injury does not align perfectly with the harm that could be vindicated for that common law allegation. And so that still leaves two other prongs of analysis standing: causation and redressability. So neither party spills much ink on these requirements. The doctors, or this is not the doctor's case, this is the retired Americans case, they say that their injury is traceable to Trump. But here, the court concludes that the plaintiffs have adequately alleged that their members suffered a concrete injury and they would have standing. And sovereign immunity doesn't bar this case. Trump says you can't sue us because we have sovereign immunity. And they say that the Supreme Court's recent decision saying that this is not the type of protection that sovereign immunity was meant to convey to you. So they have one final related argument from Trump. I'm actually saving the best for last. That argument proceeds as follows. It says Section 4 of the APA and the Privacy Act, according to them, says that they can't sue for injunction under that claim. But this is not what this court is going to resolve this case on. So after all of that, where it seemingly is like Trump loses every one of those and the plaintiffs win, assured of its jurisdiction, courts like to do this. They don't like to say, I can't hear this power. Right? I don't have the power to hear this case. So I definitely can hear it. And you still definitely can be sued. But the court turns to a 4-factor Winter test for the issuance of a preliminary injunction. 4 factors: likely to succeed, irreparable harm, balance of the equities, and public interest. Here, we begin and end with irreparable harm. So to obtain a preliminary injunction, you got to show all 4, but the first one is irreparable harm because it's such a monstrous and massive power to order somebody to do something. So consistent with these standards, to get a preliminary injunction, it is a very high standard. The moving party must show the injury complained of is of such imminence that there is a clear and present need for the relief to prevent irreparable harm. And with all elements of this, the people suing have to establish the facts there. Now, the standard for irreparable harm in this circuit is even more demanding than that one. In the Second Circuit, there's a distinct risk of certain harms may be found to constitute irreparable injury. But in this case, they say there are two types of harms. But they haven't carried their burden. They haven't shown that the harm is certain and great. Blown out. Took page 38 to get there, but golly, we got there. Says here, the retired alliance, they first assert that Trump have unlawfully shared their members' sensitive information without their consent, resulting in immediate injury to their legitimate privacy interests. But the judge says, yeah, but you haven't shown evidence of that. You have not made a clear showing that allowing the DOGE team to access their information is an irreparable harm. How is it a harm? Although the privacy harms they have asserted are real and they're sufficiently concrete to give us jurisdiction over this, those harms are not necessarily irreparable. Now, as Judge Randolph Moss recently noted, courts in the district have consistently declined to find irreparable injury from the disclosure of private information where the challenged disclosure is not public. It's not even public. Instead, if it's a small number of individuals who are obligated to keep it confidential, like DOGE. So under those circumstances, the court can correct and issue a remedy. For example, this court could order the small number of people who receive the information to return or destroy it. So, and I've looked into that. I went through all this. They're doing a forensic analysis and so on. It's all private. Nothing's gone public. If somebody has it, we can find it and delete it. So we can repair the harm that you think has been caused. The, quote, possibility that adequate relief of that kind will be available at a later date weighs heavily against the claim of irreparable harm. Now, they also say that Trump created a non-speculative risk of dissemination of private information. Now, there is no doubt, the judge writes, that the public dissemination of sensitive private information is an irreparable harm if it does happen. But on the record, these retired alliance people have not carried their burden of showing that such dissemination is even likely. Instead, the record shows that Trump has taken measures to monitor and control DOGE and their access to the systems and limit the risk of any improper disclosure outside the agency. In fact, their counsel represented at the hearing that these measures will remain in place going forward, so nothing's going to get worse. Meanwhile, the retired folks have not shown that any improper disclosure of private information has even taken place. The record does show that they made mistakes while onboarding the team, improperly granted read-write access to Alez, Mr. Big Balls, to a database for a brief period, failed to process his appointment paperwork accurately and timely, sat on someone's desk. Okay. However, there's no direct evidence that any of these mistakes resulted in improper disclosures outside the federal government and made such disclosure more likely in the future. Therefore, these mistakes, without more, do not show that improper dissemination of private information obtained from the systems is likely in the future. Now, during a hearing on their motion, the alliance argued that certain language in the order from Trump reorganizing the U.S. DOGE service supports an inference that they will continue to make improper disclosures. Because they say, well, here, Trump said he's going to do it anyways, to make sure that everybody has full and prompt access to all unclassified records and more. They say this, Your Honor, look, it shows that everybody's going to share data with DOGE as soon as the court allows them to. And once that happens, we're going to lose our privacy. However, Trump's counsel and the administration said that to the court, that we interpret that order, meaning it requires agencies like Treasury to share information with DOGE only if sharing is consistent with the law. Like, we can't break the Privacy Act. We can't break the Internal Revenue Code. We still have to follow our internal rules. Now, the administration further said, in the absence of a court order, Trump would not share information with DOGE unless it were authorized by the law. Now, because the alliance has not produced any evidence to rebut that, to say they're not going to do that, or they haven't done that, or whatever, they've not shown that there is any unlawful dissemination. Now, their inability to show a likelihood of future wrongful dissemination is fatal to their motion. They can't show that it is going to happen. So they don't need an injunction. Under the law of this circuit, an increased risk of future harm, even if it's a tiny little risk of a major harm, is not sufficient to support a preliminary injunction. It has to be likely to materialize. Therefore, merely, like, it's not some, random, like 1%, maybe this will happen, so you have to stop everything. No. It's got to be likely to materialize. Therefore, merely asserting that the DOGE team creates an increased risk of catastrophic data breach and disclosure is not enough. Instead, they have a heavy burden. They have to show that improper disclosure would be likely. It's going to happen in the absence of a court order. On the record before us, they have not proven that claim. Now, similarly, in the absence of a showing of irreparable harm from improper disclosure, their evidence that their members are suffering and will continue to suffer. Oh, yeah. You remember this lawsuit. This was the emotional damage case. Suffer emotional distress because their action is not sufficient to support a preliminary injunction. We're going to, all these people, whiners, Rosenblatt, McElhaney, Casey, Jenkins, Morrison, Peterson, all these people in their declarations. I don't know what they wrote specifically in there, but they're bundling it up, the judge, as emotional damage. Says the court does not doubt the sincerity of their distress. Yeah. But in this circuit, emotional distress, no matter how sincere or pathetic, cannot support a preliminary injunction without showing that the feared event is given, that they are fearing about, is likely to occur. Now, on this point, now Chief Judge James Boasberg decisions is instructive. He says there's another case that's very appropriate here. There was a group of sovereign American Indian tribes. Here's this case. They had sued to halt construction and operation of the Dakota Access Pipeline. They said this is a vital source of drinking water for the tribes on the land to the Standing Rock Sioux tribe and the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe. Now, the chief judge ultimately agreed with the tribes on one of their legal challenges to the pipeline project, saying the pipeline had unlawfully encroached on federal land. Now, nonetheless, he declined to issue a permanent injunction against the pipeline because he concluded the tribes didn't carry their burden of showing a likely irreparable injury. In reaching that conclusion, the chief judge said that the tribe members' sincere anxiety and trauma that would result from the contemplation of a hypothetical damaging oil spill, like something we could spill oil. And we're having literal trauma right now about that. Like the trauma is real. We're imagining a hypothetical damaging oil spill. We have trauma now so that we're injured now. Regardless of the measurable risk upon this of a spill. Now, he rejected that argument. He said, when the risk of the feared harm from the agency in question is low, plaintiffs cannot claim irreparable injury from the distress around speculative claim, right? Like you can't hack your way around harm. Just say, well, I'm fearful of the harm. There's no real harm, but I'm fearful of the harm. That's the harm. No. Nice try. Not allowed to do that. Saying the same reasoning precludes the issuance of a preliminary injunction for their emotional damage because plaintiffs have not carried their burden, the retired alliance, saying that they haven't shown there will be any improper dissemination of their private information. The emotional distress that they're hysterical about, no matter how sincere it is not a basis for an injunction. What weenies? Finally, the court briefly addresses one theory on which it does not rely in concluding that they have not made a showing of harm. Parties sometimes argue that an injunction is not necessary to prevent irreparable harm because another district has already issued a similar injunction. However, this court agrees with the many others that routinely grant follow-on injunctions against the government, even in instances of other nationwide injunctions. As they noted during the hearing, a prior injunction may be later appealed, and so accordingly, this court has assessed that their evidence of irreparable harm is independent of another judge. Okay, this is another whack job judge out of this SDNY, Judge Vargas, suing in a different jurisdiction that came to an opposite conclusion. Its conclusion here does not depend on the existence of that injunction. So in sum, the judge brings us to a close. Plaintiff's motion falls short of the standard for a preliminary injunction, and the court can't grant one unless it is both certain and great. Courts in this circuit must faithfully and fairly apply the standard in all cases. You hear that, Judge Amir? If plaintiffs could show that Trump imminently planned to make their private information public or share that information with people outside the government, the court would not hesitate to find, oh yeah, irreparable harm, they can't do that. But on the present record, they've not shown that they've done anything like that or even have a plan. If circumstances change, You can come back to court and seek your emergency remedy if there is actual harm and you're not just being big babies about it. Nothing in today's opinion should be understood to foreclose any future relief. If they leak your information or publish it, sue them again. For the foregoing reasons, Judge Colleen Kolar Cottley says the court shall deny the motion for a preliminary injunction. And the order is what we saw as follows. So good filing there. They still have to file some additional briefs by March 10th. An administrative, Trump needs to file a motion to dismiss or for summary judgment. We get responses in April. So this case is not closed yet. It will continue on, but they're not getting the relief at this stage, and it's unlikely that they will in the future. So big win, good win on that. And it's nice to see the district courts starting to, like dominoes, sync up and give us some good rulings saying you just can't sue on this one. Like you don't actually have harm. I know you think you have harm. We know you're hysterical about the harm, but you don't actually have any harm. So a lot of this was talking about the State Department and Elon Musk. You may have seen some headlines out there today that there was a prickly meeting, is what they were writing. A throwdown, contentious meeting in the cabinet, blah, blah, blah. Trump shut that down today, saying, nope, Elon, DOGE, Treasury Department, Access, Marco, it's all going well. Stop causing a scene.
Clashes eventually between Secretary Rubio and Secretary.
No clash. I was there. You're just a troublemaker. And you're not supposed to be asking that question because we're talking about the World Cup.
Yeah.
Elon gets along great with Marco, and they're both doing a fantastic job. There is no clash.
Mr. President, bottom line.
Who are you with? Who are you with?
NBC.
Oh, no wonder. That's enough.
Who
NBC.
has more authority, Elon Musk or the Cabinet Secretary?
Any other questions
Terrible website, too.
about the World Cup?
Yeah, you can't even highlight anything on their website. Can't see a dang thing. So another big victory for Trump. So the Treasury Department and DOGE can continue on with their business without the Alliance for Retired Americans interfering on behalf of people who don't want to be investigated. They don't want any of their information to be looked at by an efficiency team. So the Treasury Department can now do that, and we'll continue to cover this case and many others. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, we got some more updates here, my friends. Let's talk about Hampton Dellinger, this fired special counsel. And let me just cue this one up in the mind map while we're here so I can show you what this dude looks like for context. But this is where we're going now. So remember this case with Hampton Dellinger. Yes. Hampton Dellinger, the fired special counsel, now cutting and running. We know he sued in Amy Berman Jackson's court. She is a D.C. district court judge, an Obama appointee. And after Trump took office, one of the first things he did was can this guy. Led the office of the special counsel, appointed by Joe Biden, went to school with Hunter Biden, and was hanging around trying to act, in my opinion, as a mole inside the agency. Trump fired him quickly. He sued and got shoved back in there. Remember, Judge Amy Berman Jackson said that he can be put back in, given access to everything, emails, powers of the office, and more, hardly without even hearing from Trump, without considering the national security concerns or anything else. And this begged the question, why is the court usurping the power of the executive branch and putting personnel into positions from which they were fired? Well, obviously, this was a battle. It went up to the Supreme Court. They held the case in abeyance, and we were waiting from some orders and decisions from the judge. Now, Amy Berman Jackson, of course, as a very reliable blue judge Democrat, came back and said Hampton can stay, granted the preliminary injunction, and said he can continue to act as a mole inside the agency. Then what happened is President Trump submitted an appeal, and the Court of Appeals came back down and granted a nice order. Here's what they said. Via an order, and there's no real long memorandum or opinion that is accompanied with this yet. It's just an order. So after this order came down, watch what happened with Hampton Dellinger. You can see. Upon consideration of the emergency stay pending appeal and the opposition here too. So Trump, after Amy Berman Jackson said Hampton Dellinger can stay in power, appealed from her lower level district court to the Court of Appeals. An emergency motion for a stay. They say, we've read everything, and we've read the amicus briefs, and we construed more from Kathy Harris and the Government Accountability Project and more. We granted those briefs. The clerk is directed to file them. Now, it is further ordered that the emergency motion for a stay pending appeal, this is from Trump, be granted. And that Amy Berman Jackson's March 1 order be stayed pending further order of the court, meaning Hampton is fired again, except to the extent that the order vacates the TRO entered on February 12th. The order gives effect to the removal of Hampton Dellinger from his position as special counsel. Okay, he got fired again. And Amy Berman Jackson kept him in there. How many days has it been? Appellants have satisfied the stringent requirements for a stay pending appeal. An opinion will follow in due course, right? Now, the opinion is the juicy bit. That's the good stuff. Like, this is great. But we want to know what their rationale is. We want that anchored in, that the president has exclusive Article 2 power to fire the head of the office of the special counsel whenever the hell he wants. Now, it's further ordered that on the court's own motion, this case be expedited. The following schedule is now set: March 21, April 4th, and replies by April 11th. The clerk is directed to calendar this case for oral arguments on the first appropriate date. They should raise all issues, and to enhance the clarity of their briefs, you are urged to limit the use of abbreviations, including acronyms and more. Please hand deliver copies by so on, right? All of that. So Hampton Dellinger just got nuked by the Court of Appeals out of the District of Columbia. Judge Amy Berman Jackson just got reversed on that. And she was writing in her, we read through two of her decisions and explained how ridiculous they were based on her reliance on, I think it was Humphrey's executor as the sole basis for why Trump cannot fire the special counsel, saying that the special counsel's office exercised virtually no executive power anyways. It was a joke. Both of them were jokes of an opinion. And so now the Court of Appeals comes out and corrects the record. Now, what you'll see is they scheduled briefs, appellee's brief, the appellant's brief. So Trump and Hampton will have to submit more filings, right? And we'll go through this because we want Hampton to continue to fight for his existence. But at the time it stands right now, he is now removed again, okay, pending these appeals, because he's the one who brought the lawsuit. But what do we know from the cowardly Hampton Dellinger? His attorneys sent this one in. And here, this is Joshua Matz, all right? This little paragrapher. Here you go. After all of Hampton's fighting for the law and for his position and against the unlawful firing on behalf of him and all these other people, here's what he writes. Pathetic. I write on behalf of Hampton Dellinger, plaintiff appellee special counsel. No. You forgot right here. The word you should have put in here is fired. All right, let me just add this in here. Little typo. I'll do some red lines for this attorney here. I write on behalf of the fired plaintiff special counsel Hampton Dellinger. If you want, you could put loser in parentheses at the end. I won't write that out though. To notify the court that Mr. Dellinger has decided not to pursue judicial relief, recognizing his right to be the head of the special counsel. You're kidding. We are still negotiating with the government regarding the proper next steps to bring this litigation to an end. We're going to see the government responded to this. We'll see what they say. What? You're negotiating? What are you talking about? However, Mr. Dellinger's final and public decision means that there is presently no live appeal for this court to address. What? And he's also citing this article. He's like, also, we wrote about this in Politico, state media from USAID. He drops his legal fight to get his job back. See, we also talked about it in the news. Wait, what? So did you file a motion to dismiss your case with prejudice and pay attorney's fees for wasting everybody's time? Or what? What did you do? Well, the Department of Justice responded to this, and here's what they said. Dear Court of Appeals, this is a weird thing happening here. We write in response to fired Hampton's letter. He's asserting that there is presently no live appeal for this court to address. You just gave us deadlines. So there is, obviously. The assertion is plainly incorrect. The government is currently subject to a permanent injunction, which is stayed only by virtue of this appeal, right? So Amy Berman Jackson's order is still in effect. The court has just stayed it and scheduled new deadlines. So this appeal remains live unless and until the permanent injunction from which it arises is dissolved and the complaint is dismissed with prejudice. So Hampton can't just send a stupid letter in. He should send in a motion saying, I'm now filing to dismiss this case and the appeal. So when he wrote in his little letter to you that his final and public decision to cease, quote, pursuing judicial relief, he says, that's not the same as dismissing the underlying litigation and dissolving the injunction. So what did he send in there? We don't know. Now, his assertion also, Hampton, that he's negotiating with the government to bring this litigation to an end is also curious because he has not proposed any stipulation under the federal rules of civil procedure. He's not sought our consent to motion for a motion to dismiss or anything. In fact, he has communicated that he would take no position on a motion to vacate the underlying judgment, but that only confirms that this appeal is not moot. Again, the appeal will become moot only if and when the lower court injunction from which it arises, the appeal is of the injunction. That is stayed. Hampton is now out, but it still exists pending the briefing and the further appeal, it's not dissolved. And Hampton's case must be dismissed with prejudice. Now, a result that he has so far not done. So he can say the case is over, but it's clearly not. So even under his view, moreover, this court would still have jurisdiction to issue an opinion. That's what we really want. Why did you stay this, Judge? It's because Amy Berman Jackson completely rigged the entire process and has no power to do anything she did. So they don't want the Court of Appeals to explain that. Because if the Court of Appeals explains that, that is now precedential for all of the DC circuit. Then everybody in DC looks around and says, oh, well, the Court of Appeals just said that Trump can fire anybody, anywhere, anytime for whatever. And that what Amy Berman Jackson did was reprehensible and illegal and wrong. So they don't want it. They don't want that opinion at all. Like, nope, we're done. We're not fighting anymore. You win. Just don't wreck everything. Okay. And Hampton and his attorneys are probably freaked out like they just poisoned the entire pot. One bad apple spoils the whole batch, as it says. So they have all these lawsuits that they're able to engage in multiple domains. But if the Court of Appeals comes back down and sets a blanket rule and explains, here's what a TRO does, here's what a stay is, who knows what is going to be in it, it could reverberate throughout the rest of the district court. So don't let them do that. This court said you were going to issue an opinion. Issue it. Their statement today from Hampton appears to be an attempt to prevent the issuance of that opinion, to stop it from coming out, which is all the more reason for this court to not abide by this procedural gamesmanship, okay? As other courts of appeals have recognized, the practice, of bifurcating an expedited order with its reasoning is common, often necessary and constitutional. So you can issue the order that we just read and write an opinion separately, even if the case becomes moot, right? So in other words, we really want your opinion. Even if he comes around and does file a motion to dismiss and that whole thing goes away, you still want your opinion, even if it's been mooted between the issuance of the order and the release of the opinion, citing all these other cases. So please give us your opinion so we can take it and shove it in every other District of Columbia judge's face peacefully and say, read this. You have no power to do what you're doing. Stop trying to undermine the Constitution because you're so mad Trump won. He won. Get over it. Okay, get on board. Let's save this country. Stop interfering with the will of the American people. All right, now, we got one more update, my friends. Then we're going to hear from you. See what you have to say about all this. ActBlue in serious trouble. Some of the leadership now abandoning ship. The New York Times is reporting on this. So is Ross Story. We'll get the latest, but they tell us that the Democratic fundraising powerhouse, you may know this entity as the one that will smurf, or they'll create donations for politicians at very small amounts, $5, $7, $3.50, $7.75, whatever it is. And each one of those donations will be under the reporting threshold. They'll aggregate those. There'll be thousands and thousands of donations made over the course of a period of time that is a ton of money, all being funneled to politicians. Now, the Republicans are doing it too, I believe, in different domains in different areas, just like we've seen some Republican entities get USAID money, not to the extent that ActBlue has been operating, but we saw this all the way back even with Obama, I believe, in whatever entity that was. Remember, they were, I think, accepting payments without verifying that they were even domestic. So there were foreign payments coming in. He had to pay a fine for that one. But ActBlue on the ropes. The online fundraising organization that powers Democratic candidates has plunged into turmoil with at least 7 senior officials resigning late last month, and a remaining lawyer suggesting he faced internal retaliation. Yikes, yikes. The lawyer is like, you better not say that, lawyer, or else you're in trouble. Like, when you start threatening your lawyer, it's not good. The departures from ActBlue, which helps raise money for Democrats, comes as the group is under investigation from congressional Republicans. They've advanced legislation that some Democrats warn could be used to debilitate what is the party's lead fundraising operation. Now, there's an exodus, deep concerns about ActBlue and their future. Last week, 2 unions representing the group's workers sent a blistering letter to ActBlue's board of directors that listed the 7 officials who had left. The letter described, quote, an alarming pattern of departures that was eroding our confidence in the org. What prompted so many ActBlue officials to leave is not clear. None of the former officials agreed to be interviewed. Like many orgs, as we undergo some transition heading into this new election cycle, we're focused on ensuring we have a strong team in place, said Megan Hughes. We greatly appreciate the contributions of our incredible team members. Now, according to the letter from the ActBlue unions, which has not been previously reported and was confirmed as authentic by 3 people, the New York Times reports the senior staff departures began on Feb 21. That day, ActBlue's customer service and partnership directors, who had both worked at the group for more than a decade, left. Now, my primary mission is rest, says Alyssa Twami. After 14 years of living and breathing all things ActBlue, it's time for a reset. I'm taking an intentional pause before setting course for my next adventure. All right. The next week, several other senior officials left, including the Associate General Counsel, who is the highest ranking legal officer there, the Assistant Research Director, or Human Resource Official, Chief Revenue Officer, engineer who spent 16 years building the electronic pipes. That was the tube guy. Left. All these people left. Zain Ahmad, who is the last remaining lawyer, wrote in an internal Slack message that his access to email and other platforms had been cut off, and that other messages he had posted in Slack were deleted, according to a screenshot. Mr. Ahmad is now on leave. Says, please be advised, we have anti-retaliation and whistleblower policies for a reason, he wrote. Uh-oh. Is he going to blow the whistle? Mr. Ahmad, tell us what happened. The union letters to the ActBlue board called Ahmad's assertions on the Slack platform unsettling and disturbing. Yikes. Part of a growing pattern of volatility. Mr. Ahmad is not responding to text or calls. The unions asked the board to hire an outside counsel to take investigatory actions to understand the state of the org. Yikes. This person, Regina Wallace-Jones, did not respond to requests for comments. Ms. Hughes, the spokeswoman, did not comment on his claims. If ActBlue were to become severely diminished, Democrats running for offices at all levels could face setbacks in their efforts to raise cash. Oh, no. Candidates for offices ranging from school boards to city councils to the presidency rely on the platform. Republicans have spent years trying to catch up. Yeah, they've got win red. Yeah. And while there are some alternative platforms, none of the scale or the reach of ActBlue. Democrats for years have credited ActBlue with giving them an edge over Republicans. They raised $16 billion for Democrats since 2004. Now, in recent weeks, congressional Republicans have demanded answers about its security and illegal contributions. The letter got sent to ActBlue, and the letter from unions warned the group was under increasing scrutiny. They responded to Republicans in a 3-page letter sent from the law firm Covington and Burling, which I think they lost their security clearance. No? Was that them? I might be wrong. To provide an update regarding ActBlue security. Some Democrats and Republicans who now control Congress will seek to shut down ActBlue. These Democrats worry that the scrutiny of the platform is just the opening salvo in a broader attack. Ted Cruz, podcast guy from Texas, last month threatened to make another company that owns the key Democratic and progressive tech infrastructure called Bonterra a subject of his subpoenas. But he said they're complying. They're giving us their records. Now, at the same time, relations between ActBlue and some major Democrats have been rocky. Biden and his re-election campaign engaged intense negotiations with them, and the unions are worried about the departure of their legal people. Those of us who work with our legal team day to day don't know what to do now. Yeah, so that's going to be a lot of fun to see how that disassembles in real time. Same thing being reported from Raw Story. 13.7 billion, very vital to Democrats, and not looking good for them. They, from what we've seen, appear to have engaged in a ton of corruption. And you can just look at these records up. People on X have done this, gone through and identified donations from people who made thousands and thousands of donations, multiple every day, under these weird names that nobody can identify. Now, the reason that the Democrats continue to lose are because many of them are horrible people like Nicole Wallace and Rachel Maddow, part of the Democratic apparatus and infrastructure. Trump said those people, along with ActBlue, should be forced to resign.
Worse than CNN is MSDNC, which is the worst. And the good news is very few people watch them anymore. They have lost such credibility. And frankly, what Nicole Wallace said, I've never been a fan of hers, and she's not very talented. But I'll tell you, what she said the other day about that young man is disgraceful. She should be forced to resign. And Rachel Maddow should be forced to resign. Nobody watches her anyway. I don't know if it's not possible they pay her as much money as I hear.
Yeah, it's
but
crazy.
Certainly she's lost all credibility, both of them. But what they said the other day, they should be forced to resign about that young person who was suffering greatly. Worse than...
Yeah, DJ, they mocked him, and Nicole Wallace was like, well, hopefully he doesn't eliminate himself. I'm like, geez, Nicole, you really are a psycho person. Wow, didn't understand it was that bad, but it's bad. So here was another effort by the Democrats. ActBlue is going away. Rachel Maddow and Nicole Wallace are mocking 13-year-olds with brain cancer now. And now Democrats in the House of Representatives are making Street Fighter meme videos. And here's what it looks like. Choose your fighter. This is Sulhi Jessica Wu, Bento Box Queen. AOC, youngest woman Latina, elected to the House. Rep. Lauren Underwood, youngest black woman. Rep. Catherine Clark, House Minority Whip. Chu, first Chinese American. Jasmine Crockett, public defender. Susie Lee, Nevada's third, 2 sprained fingers. Choose your fighter. All right. That's the Democrats, man. So she's Bento Box Queen, mommy of the century, and sleep deprived. So Sulhi Jessica Wu, never even heard of her. She must be new. Here's one, AOC. 14th Congressional District, youngest woman plus Latina to be elected to the House. And she's a Trekkie. She's a Star Trek. Great. So it ruins that. So we also got this woman, Rep. Lauren Underwood, youngest black woman elected to Congress. Great. Co-founded the Black Maternal Office and hates balloons. What kind of a person hates balloons? I don't know. I guess Lauren Underwood does. Catherine Clark, who I think hers of most of them look like she was about to go, number 2, kind of right there. I don't really know what. Kind of was like a weird, squat kind of a thing. House Minority Whip. Massachusetts 5th Congressional District. Not into hair dye. All right. So she's about to have a bowel movement. Then this woman, I think she's playing the maracas or something. She's Judy Chu. First Chinese American woman elected to Congress. Wow. Bunch of firsts here on this little montage. California's 28th Congressional District. And she's too sweet. She's just too sweet. Isn't she just too sweet? There's Jasmine Crockett. She's an attorney. Oh, gosh. And a public defender. Oh, gosh. Not a morning person or a night person or an afternoon person from what we've seen. And she's Texas's 30th Congressional District. All right. And then this woman throws some punches. She's from Nevada, president of communities and schools. And she's got 2 sprained fingers Probably just sprained him there from a couple of those punches or whatever she was trying to do there. Right. So, wow. And that, my friends, are the Democrats. All right. So if you're just joining us, it's been a beautiful day. We got some good legal updates, and it's great to see everybody again. I missed you yesterday. If you just joined us, hit the rewind button because we talked about the AIDS doctors and articulated what I think is going to be the next sequence of events in that case, where the judge will issue a ruling. We'll see how broad or narrow it is. We'll see if Trump appeals that, and we'll see if they ever get paid. But we also saw, I think a big takeaway on this one was the total demands were $2 billion, and the actual demands are close to like $2 million. So just an order of magnitude, not a big deal. Fortunately, we're going to be saving some serious money on that one. We talked about the DC Circuit and the Retired Americans Alliance and how they sued Trump to stop access of DOGE from accessing their information, and they lost that one. So that was a good filing. We read through that. Nice filing, an opinion from Colleen Kolar Cottley. Then we saw Hampton Dellinger got fired again. He was already fired once and got fired a second time. So he's got to pack up his little box again. Oh, again? Yeah, take it out. Get out. You're not coming back this time. So read through that. Good decision or good filings on that. And we see that Hampton is trying to escape more accountability because he might have wrecked other cases in the circuit of Columbia. So we also talked about ActBlue and how ActBlue is now on the ropes. They're in trouble. People are abandoning ship, jumping overboard, and trying to escape the blast zone. And we're here for it. But now, my friends, it is time to hear from you. I hope your Friday is amazing. I hope that your week was outstanding. I hope you accomplished all the things you set your mind to. Your stack of mail is emptied out. Your email inbox is zeroed out. And you're ready for a great weekend. That I am ready for. What's up? Okay, we got some great donos coming in, my friends. Thank you for sending these in and supporting our work on the day. Let's see who is joining us on this lovely Friday. And what's up, Donut? Thank you for clipping for us. Carrie B, K Bean. Great to see everybody. All right, today we got It's a Little Bit of Friday feeling. Woo, with that kitty dancing. Thank you, Donut. We got Glocky says, look, because SCOTUS and the Republicans-controlled Senate refuses to rein in and provide oversight over the judiciary, local county judges are now claiming emergency powers to stop the federal government from arresting and deporting illegal aliens. Great. So they're like, well, if they can do it in D.C., that's great. Hey, former Rob, did you see that crackhead Hunter dropped his lawsuit against Garrett? Yeah, I know that Ziegler was out running around, wondering if he can recoup the funds. Doesn't seem fair to the individual who started it and caused the expense. Should be able to walk away before the case is settled with no consequences. Yeah, good call, former. We'll talk about that. We'll get back into that tomorrow and see if we can talk to Garrett about it. Renee, what's up? My best friend runs this. They give computers to veterans. The guy that created the 501c3 is amazing, an LEO and widower of a U.S. Air Force veteran. He builds computers on stream. Old Peeps is his name. Awesome, Renee Sargent. So check that out, my friends. Alwaysgiveback.org. Says, you were gone so long, I almost ran out of briskets. Don't want to do that, Renee. What are you going to be smoking out there if you can't smoke your briskets? E. Texley says the link to Bill Barr's unitary executive speech is at the following link. Bill, I actually might be interested in that one. Yeah, thank you for that link, E. Texley. I wonder what he says about it. NY says, so it is possible both Roberts and Barrett could come to a final decision after Judge Amir delineates what the federal government has to pay. Up until now, it's still firmly in TRO area. Yep, that sounds accurate. Yeah, so yeah, he could issue a new order that is very specific. You pay these people this much, whatever. And honestly, if it's as narrow as it looks like it'll be, Trump will just pay it. Okay. It's actually 1.2 million of actual work. Okay, here's your money. It's actually this. Here's your money. That's what we were doing anyways. We were going to pay you for work that was done. We just wanted to make sure you did it. Now you're forced to explain that you did it. Harley's dad says, can't subscribe, but this works. 1,000 subs, Harley's dad in the house. Oh, I see what you're saying. Like you can't subscribe to the channel, but you can send a super chat in? What? YouTube, why do you hate me? Let the man subscribe to the channel. Thanks for trying, Harley's dad. Thomas Sherwin. Thank you, Thomas Sherwin. Great to see you, my friend. Thanks for the dono today. Hope your week was amazing. NY says, I did some digging. The old jab group, decided to be a medical home for patients who participated in this. Thank you, NY. The voice of the people is here. What's up, voice? Says, Victor Man is coming in. Gifted 5 membos. Thank you, voice. Victor Man is here. Victoria Greenfield is here. Diana from Florida. What's up? Doug is in the house. And Lotus Blossom, gifted membos, courtesy of Voice of the People. Great to see you, voice. Knox is here. Says, hey, TGIF all. It's Friday. Says, sharing a link to Matt Taibbi's memory project. The dude is going nuts on a huge fraud docs project with timelines. Join the memory rebellion. Project 451. That sounds cool. Thank you, Knox. I'll have to check that out too. Good stuff today. NY, I tried to see if any of these AIDS doctors were ever involved in the clinical trials. They are not listing names in the court filing, so I call BS and tell the so-called AIDS doctors to find who they are and what they're doing. Yeah, I don't even know if they call themselves doctors or what. Like, it's AIDS Vaccine Advocacy Coalition, and you go over there, it's like an HR company or something. I don't even know what they do, but they have the burden to justify their expenditures. To us, we pay for it. They have to. They don't get a blank check to do whatever they want with it. So they got to tell us, and now they have to. So we're happy about that. SD Gold Star Mom, does that mean you picked up the box? Welcome back and smiles. So no, SD Gold Star Mom, I did not. But the post office said they forwarded it to me. So I'm waiting patiently for it. I hope it gets here. So I hope I get it. SD Gold Star Mom sent me something. I don't know how long ago. It's been like 3-4 months now. She's like, did you go pick it up? I moved. Like, as she sent it, I moved. Then I went down to pick it up, but I was there on a Saturday. The post office was closed. So then I talked to the post office. They say, how about we just forward it to you? I said, yeah, that's great. And I still don't have it. So I don't know where it is, but I can't wait to get it. Thank you, SD Gold Star Mom. I really want it. I hope it comes. Cornelius Buttknuckle. Everyone in that Choose Your Fighter video is doing the same standing squat that toddlers do when they fill their diapers right in front of you. Yes. Yeah, that's right. That little toddler, like toddlers like running around. I don't have toddlers yet, but you see them running around. They're like in the middle of something and then all of a sudden they just stop. And they have that look on their face. You're like, oh, I know what he's doing. I'm going to go outside now. What's up, Sheila the Pooh? 10 membos coming in. Thank you, Sheila, for bringing in 10 new amazing membos. Sandra Williamson is here. We got Wick Dipper. We got Chris Fry. Colleen, my friends. We got Oklahoma Chicken Cam. Golden Gaming. What's up, JC? Brian Deason. Darlene Nicholas. Whiskey Tango. We got Michelle is here. Moore here. And Shane Sousa all shouting out Sheila Pooh. Great to see you, Sheila Pooh. Thanks for bringing in 10 new membos. And new membos, we'll see you tomorrow. We'll have a Saturday members-only morning stream tomorrow morning. So we'll be looking forward to that. Give me more. Give me more here. What's up? More here. Bringing in 5 more here. Thank you, more here. Desert Pack Rat in the house. Calopolis Effect. Judy Luthi, Linda McCracken, and Sandra Sanders in the house, courtesy of More Here. Give me more here. Thank you, More Here. And Ed, what's up, Ed? Ed 2276 in the house. Bringing in Chris B. Zach Crow, what's up? War Mode Engaged. Mr. Cool Miser. We got Evil Game Corner Reggie. What's up, Lee Freedom? Audacity is here. Surfing Bird, T Hill, and Alyssa Grotkin. Gifted membos, courtesy of Ed 2276. Ed, you're the man. Thank you for that. Chubby Stubby says, lower court federal judges says, I can hear these cases because I say so. Yeah, courts, we've noticed, are very disinclined to say, I can't hear these cases, right? It's like, I have plenty of power. Don't you say I don't. NY says, OMG, what a BS reason for standing. I know, intrusion upon seclusion. She had to go all the way back to the restatement of the law to find that. Yeah, that's close enough. You're like, oh my gosh, give me a break, Judge. The TransUnion case dealt with credit files, not employment. You can be a private employee. Talk about a stretch of ratio descendi. Yeah, it felt like, I'm like, you have to quote from the restatement here to find standing for these folks. Give me a break. Hey, it's the Munkets is in the house. What's up, Tony? Hey, great to see you, my friend. Thanks for bringing in 20 new friends. What's up, Chippewa Joe? We got Julski B, Liberty Bell Lyric, the real Hydro PX got one. Ron Ferret, what's up, Helena J? CXLD Brand. We got Larry Putnam, MO. Stephanie Johnston. We got Kevin S. Welcome. What's up to Quentin Davis, Major Johnson, One Great Plan, been there, done that. Natasha, very good. Aaron Betancourt, Michelle Moneywell, Jeff K. MN, Scott Dove, all gifted membos courtesy of Tony Haymunkets. Tony Haymunkets, you rock. Hey, what's up? Ann Soroka. Ann Soroka just became a membo. Good to see you, Ann Soroka. We'll see you tomorrow on the Saturday show. Great to have you. Glocky is here. Let me make sure we don't have too many nipples in here on this one. All right, no nipples. Not too many nipples. Maybe side nip. I don't know. Here's what you see. New Van Halen cover band just dropped. It's called Vance Halen. I love the Vance memes, man. And I heard somebody asked him about it. I read he's a good sport. He's being a good sport about it because it's hilarious. Like the big fat Vance faces. Oh, JD Vance. Hilarious. What's up, Glocky? Why do they look like they're about to lay a trap for Batman? They do, actually. Yeah, like the Riddler, Two-Face, and the Joker. They're all right there. The Riddler, the Joker, and Two-Face. They're all right there. You can see them one by one. What's up? Hey, what goes around comes around. Federal workers can find another job. No double standards here. Biden to pipeline workers. Find another job. Yeah, same to federal workers. Plenty of work for them to do out there. It's going to be great. Glocky, someone needs to tell the Republicans in Congress to pass Trump's EOs into law to make them permanent. Yeah, and they're being just super pathetic about this budget and stuff. They're like, I saw some article from Jim Jordan. He's like, well, we're just going to cut one thing from DOGE. Otherwise, we're going to keep spending the same. Don't you people understand where we are right now? They're going to squander this moment. Renee, can the U.S. government sue Dellinger for fraud or something? I mean, probably not. Like, I think he'd claim that he's got immunity from a lawsuit and he was just exercising his lawful right. Like, they should make a claim for attorney's fees. Like, he's just going to sue and then drop his case. Like, the government should make, how we got to pay for this whiny, like, little attempt. But unlikely. What's up, Chubby? I hope Hampton remembers to list all firings on his updated CV. He got fired twice. This dude is so pathetic. He got fired twice in 2 months. What a total loser, man. Wow. Glocky, it's a shame that the only criminal referral we got so far is from Rep. Luna showing her criminal referral to the DOJ for the 4 sanctuary mayors who testified before Congress yesterday and read them to the Fed laws they have violated. Did she actually make that criminal referral or was she just contemplating it? Like, have we seen it in writing or anything? I don't think I've seen anything yet, but we'll see if that happens. Glocky, what's up? New classic Americana painting just dropped. Outstanding. Is it weird that I would put that up in our house if it was can you get that like in a full blown painting? Like with, brush strokes? I put it up. Yeah, it looks great. What's up? I don't know if JD Vance would be happy about it, but it looks great. Hey, Glocky, my road looks like this. So Pakistan's gender programs can look like this. Yeah. Well, Pakistan needs their gender programs over there, Renee Sargent says, my wife had a real hard time yesterday. She's so glad you're online today so she doesn't have to hear me complain. We need our daily legal news. I missed you too, Renee. I do. I miss you guys. I miss you. I have like show anxiety when we're not doing the show. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. But I had a great event and it's good for me to expand my horizons. It's good for you too, so that I don't turn into this stale, boring, stagnant human being. It's good. It's good for, to get out and see what other people are doing and stuff. So I really enjoyed it. Thanks for letting me have the day off. I had a great time. I met some good dudes and we're going to be in touch. And I got some great ideas, new energy. Humanity is out there interfacing with people. It's great. It's good. It's good for us. Hey, what's up? CMRG. Rob, missed you, man. I missed you, CMRG. I love big, beautiful spotlight and denied. But you got to do yet another one more time. What's the last one? Yet another. Do I do that? Do I do that one? I don't know that one. Some things I don't even know happen here, and I appreciate you bringing them to my attention so I can make the necessary adjustments. Thanks. One more time. Thank you, CMRG. I appreciate it. I missed you too. Ed, hey, Smurfing is making small repeated donations in the names of people who don't know the donations have been made in their names. It's fraud and ID theft, another case for Bondi to investigate and to prosecute. Yeah, and there are treasure troves of data, a massive findings, right? People, who did, I don't know if Data Republican did it or someone like her on X was doing reveals and showing, thousands of donations being made. It's not possible unless it's happening by bots. And remember, Obama had to pay that fine because I don't think he was checking like the CVVs on the back of cards, which means you could take money from overseas. And nobody was prosecuted for that. He got millions of dollars. Totally ridiculous. And why? Even if Trump sits on his booty for 4 years, one thing he accomplished, he slayed the blue dragon of the Democratic Party. No one has ever done that yet. He has taken them out wholesale. It's been wild. Media got taken out. I mean, right now, the foreign aid graft has been taken out. These law firm, right? The Democratic lawyers and law firms and the legal enterprise has always been extremely left. And I never really understood it, but I think it's just because they captured it. Like they captured the law schools, then they captured the law firms, and then the law firms captured the politicians in many ways. So like the legal infrastructure is being decimated. He just signed another executive order today. The foreign aid graft, the domestic aid graft, the media graft. We're going to get elections fortified appropriately. The illegal alien graft, like all of their power bases are just being destroyed one after the other. What's left? And Trump did it beautifully. We're grateful. Glocky, this is current day Maine, and I'm going to guess that the politicians in D.C. who represent our district had huge amounts of USAID money sent to Somalia, were supposed to go to Somalia, but got lost en route. Maine Representative Dika Dalek. We Somalis living outside Somalia must always prioritize our country, Somalia. Yeah, well, it sounds like Ilhan Omar, doesn't it? Quadcam, what's up? So now they've shown Dellinger was never allowed back in. What happens with the federal and probationary workers that he requested come back? Do they all get to stay? So it's a great question. So this is part of the problem that the government actually identified, right? They said, if you let him back in, everything he's done is going to be invalid. We're going to come in and undo that because we said he should have been fired from the beginning. So in other words, the judge is not alleviating harm by putting him back in. She's causing more harm. Okay. Everything he's going to be doing is going to be invalidated. But as I said, I think that she put him back in there for a reason. Like there was still unfinished business that needed to be cleared up. That dude went in and cleared up something, which is wild because why didn't he do that in the months or weeks preceding Trump's inauguration? Or was he just there to act as like a mole to try to bring other people back in, recognize he was going to lose? I think some lawyer probably got smart and realized, bro, you're going to establish really bad precedent for everybody here. So withdraw you just lost now, so withdraw. And he may have actually hurt them ultimately if the Court of Appeals comes back down and sets the rule. This is going to happen eventually. Okay, all these judges have been acting out of turn. And at some point, we're going to start to see a consolidation of this. We've been predicting it. It's just been a very frustrating experience because these judges they've been basically exploiting TROs to interfere with the presidency, but those can't go on forever. So there was always an end in sight. I mean, they can't happen indefinitely throughout the administration, but the executive orders and the pace of the changes will diminish. We're just in this real hyper era right now. Tony Hay Munkets. There's only two types of Democrats, unintelligent or evil, from Tony Hay Munkets. Yeah, Zone Girl, or, there are some people I think that are just Democrat by default, and they just haven't actually thought it through a whole lot. And people are waking up in many ways. I think that you're seeing some realignment in America right now. And the more people see success, okay, we talk about this a lot. It's attraction versus promotion. The Democrats are in promotion mode right now. That's all they have. That's not attractive. Attraction is attractive. Winning, succeeding, producing outcomes, improving lives, making the economy work. All these are attractive. We don't need to promote ourselves if we're doing attractive things and living in an attractive way. Hey, Rob Stoops, Michigan Patriot. What's up, Rob Stoops? Bro, her name is Mad Cow, or just call her Mark Cuban for short. Rachel Maddow. Yeah. She kind of does have a Mark Cuban look. Zone Girl. I would be interested in a deep dive into the Capitol Police eliminations. Were they real or were they staged because of what they knew, or were they or where they were or what they did on January 6th? Yeah, I think a lot of people would like to know a lot more about those. And no one really knows, as far as I know. What's up? Elucidation Station says, is it any surprise that a woman that refused to take her husband's last name, Amy Coney Barrett, would end up ruling against conservatives on the bench? Yeah, look, KBJ, ABJ, AOC, KJP, RBG. Need I say more? That's a great roundup there. Thank you for that, Elucidation Station. Yeah. Yeah, it's, a pattern. Can't deny the pattern that exists. And you can also put in Sandra Day O'Connor there, right? SDO. Throw her on there. Sandra Day O'Connor, right? I think she was appointed by Reagan. Turned out to be pretty damn blue. It's like, are we going to learn our lesson at all? Great list, Elucidation. Thanks for watching on Rumble. Knox says, OMG, those Fight Club congresswomen need to file under the Take It Down Act. Maybe Melania, a truly class act, can help them out. That's great. Melania's like, ladies, I'm going to take that down for your own good. Okay, this is harmful to you. I have to take it down. It's the law. What you're doing to yourselves is illegal. That's how dumb you are. So that's hilarious. Hey, what's up? Rob Stoops says, I do believe that until there is a mass arrest, and that would include people in Congress and the government with perp walks, no one's going to trust the government. I think that's true. I have a little bit more trust in the government now, but I'm still generally distrustful of the government. Okay. Even if Trump is in charge of it, it's the government. Okay. It's an entity that's much bigger than him. He's one man. So I think always got to look at the government with some skepticism, and we're watching it happen with this Epstein stuff. Like, we're watching it right now. Okay. No one's going to get perp walk on that if we even get files. What's up, Pinochet? We should remind ActBlue about obstruction of justice. 1512C, baby. Don't destroy or mutilate or conceal any records, otherwise you're busted. Tony Hay Munkett says, YouTube wouldn't let me send a super chat, so I had to change it. I meant to say stupid or pure evil. Stupid or pure evil. Well, yeah. Shane says, I think I saw it correctly. Yeah, we got it. Tony Hay Munkets. What's up, Zone Girl? Happy 74th birthday to you yesterday. Happy birthday, Zone Girl, my friend. Sending you the happiest of birthday wishes. What a beautiful spread you have there. Beautiful roses. Looks like some sunflowers. A nice, is that a cookie cake? Is that a cookie cake? Man, I love cookie cakes. And a nice stack of presents and maybe a new purse too. That looks nice too. Very nice. Happy birthday to you, Zone Girl. Thank you for celebrating with us and sharing the love and happiness and cheer. I hope you have a beautiful day today and a beautiful birthday weekend, and you eat something delicious and you have 2 scoops of ice cream. GTKA Rob says, hey, welcome back, Rob. Thank you for making the complex understandable. Thank you, Steve. Yeah, thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. Thanks for joining us, man. We're all trying to figure it out together. Rob Stoops. So if the AIDS doctors don't justify their work, does that make it fraud and they can all be prosecuted? I guess it would probably come down to, definitions and justifications. And in what are they, who gets to decide what actual productive work is, right? Who gets to say this is valid, this is invalid? They're going to go out and say, we're going to raise awareness. Okay. It's very subjective, in other words. Now, if it was actual fraud, like if their contract with the State Department was to do something and they didn't do that thing, then that might be fraud. So it depends, I guess, who's doing it. Rob. All right. Thank you, Sharpie Guy. Michael Stetson, what's up? 22 months as a membo, says ultra-virus, the legal term of 2025. Ultra-virus, the legal term of 2025. Stan, what's up? Thank you, Stan, for becoming a supporter. Great to have you. EOD Cookie says, just hopping on now, so I'll rewatch, but Dellinger is gone. Dellinger is gone. Hey, what's up, Knox? Hey, by the way, glad you had a good trip, Rob. We did miss you. I missed you too, Knox. I did. Thank you for saying that. Hey, what's up? Jennifer says, please join Off Label Podcast tonight after Rob. So check it out. Off Label Podcast is the place to be. Jesser Bob, a guy I went to school with had received a thank you letter from Kamala Harris this past fall for his $1,000 donation. He did not believe in, nor did he have $1,000 to just give away. I told him about this scam and told him to request a refund immediately. Wow, that's interesting. Thank you, Jesser Bob. Yeah, hopefully he gets it. Michelle, Fauci did some really messed up things to AIDS patients. I question any money he had a hand in funding concerning AIDS. On another note, during COVID, a trailer turned over in Pennsylvania and research monkeys were loose in Pennsylvania. I think I remember that headline. Did they find those monkeys? Hopefully they did. What's up, Whoopsie Daisy? Wow, beautiful. Beautiful Whoopsie Daisy. Absolutely beautiful. Yeah, and it's beautiful here in Prescott, Arizona, man. We had snow. We got some nice snow here. I'm sure you people in places that get a lot of snow won't think it's a ton of snow, but we got some snow. Yeah, check this out. So this is outside. This is Prescott, Arizona. That's our snow. Woo, that just dropped this week. That's outside our spot here. And that was the rocks. It's gorgeous out. So we're going to go walk around in it. It's going to be fun. Hey, what's up? Ron14 says, would Hampton lose his severance benefits if he sued, and particularly if he lost? Probably not. I don't think so. I think he was suing, unless there was some sort of clause in his contract or something. But no, I don't think so. I think that if he has benefits or severance or any of those things, I don't know what his contract entailed or what his terms were, but I don't think one thing has anything to do with the other, ultimately. Voice says, the monkeys came from a lab only 3 places in the world. Pennsylvania isn't one of them. Thank you, Voice, for that detail. I don't know what happened with those monkeys, so check out the monkeys. All right, let's see who's joining us on X, my friends. Then we're going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We'll debrief over there a little bit. And of course, Membos, we'll see you tomorrow on Saturday. So we'll be here. We'll be doing our Saturday stream, and it'll be great to see you. Hey, what's up on X? Richard Tatership, great to see you. Jody, good to see you, Jody. Can we make millstones great again? Good question. Minnie Tika, great to see you. Thanks for sharing the Rumble link. And we had some great friends over there on X. Very nice to see everybody over there. But my friends, that is where we will leave it on the day. It's been a beautiful day, a beautiful Friday. Thanks for joining us again. What's the housekeeping item that we have? Time change. Sunday, right? Arizona doesn't change time. I think the rest of the world does. But we might change time. I don't know what we're going to do. So thank you for subscribing, and thank you for turning the notifications on. The shows will be scheduled accordingly. But I think everything changes, right? Next week. Membo stream in the morning will probably not change. It'll probably stay at my time. The show might stay at everybody else's time. I'll have to think about it. But I forgot that was happening Sunday. Just remember that. Okay, so my friends, it's been a beautiful and an amazing day. Thank you so much for joining us and for coming back after I missed you yesterday. We're grateful for that. We, of course, are going to leave it there. We're going over to locals, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We're going to debrief and hang out. Membos, we'll see you back here tomorrow on Saturday. But my friends, I hope that your week was outstanding and you accomplished all the things you set your mind to. We'll unplug for the weekend. We'll come back on Monday to get into it again. And in order to do that appropriately, before we say this, we got to thank our mods and our meme smiths. K-Bean, Donut Mind Me, Carrie B, Playing Hooky, Janek, and Dog Digger modding the fort down for us, keeping things oh so nice and beautiful around here. But now, my friends, we will unplug for the weekend. We're coming back on Monday to get into it again. In order to do that appropriately, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it an amazing weekend, my friends. I'll see you right back here on Monday. Bye-bye.